Hey, are you hiring? If you answered yes, let XenTegra Staffing help staff your IT people needs. Head over to XenTegra.com/XenTegra Staffing to find out more. XenTegra Staffing, we can staff your IT people needs. Welcome to another edition of the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton, your source for all things Citrix.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 40 of the Citrix Session podcast. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. We have a little special thing going on today. We have with us one of the lead sales engineers at XenTegra, Randy Price. Hey, Randy, how's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So my sales engineers, systems engineers, they are on the lookout for situations in the EUC world that we work with, Citrix, VMware, Microsoft. When there's a vulnerability or something out there, they let me know, and we agree to jump on a podcast and let you guys know. So wanted to hop out and do a podcast today on CTX 279897 virtual apps and desktop Windows. Microsoft Windows Defender is detecting Citrix broker service and Citrix high availability service as a Trojan. That is a mouthful. So Randy, you want to just give us an overview of what this is all about and why we thought it was a good idea to jump on here and let people know what was happening?
Sure. So essentially what's happening, Microsoft released an update. It is version 1.321.1319.0 for Windows Defender. And with that, customers started noticing some issues, right? Their Citrix broker service was just disappearing in the services console. And they were seeing this on delivery controllers as well as the Citrix high availability service on Citrix cloud connectors. Come to find out, what was happening was the Microsoft Windows Defender was actually quarantining these because they were detecting it incorrectly as a Trojan. Citrix did release this Tech Note article. Within it, Microsoft has released an updated antivirus definition to address this issue. In this Tech Note, they actually walked through some steps to actually clear the cache and initiate an update for Windows Defender to try to remediate this issue. So if you have not deployed that version, definitely recommend not deploying the affected version of the antivirus definition and going through that process so you get the newest updated version. However, if you have been affected or if you do notice these, there are a few steps and workarounds that you can take. One is to go through and essentially restore those services from the quarantine files. One thing to point out, kind of walk through this myself, just kind of validate. So when you go through and you restore the services, the logon needs to be changed back to network service from local system. So, if you go through this process, it will restore the files. It'll show up in the services console. However, it still won't work. You need to validate that the logon for these services are set to network service and not local system. So that is one workaround. Another workaround is just to go through and use your Citrix virtual apps and desktops ISO. You'll actually run through and reinstall the broker service x64 MSI and perform a repair. So that is another option to get your services back and working, specifically on the delivery controllers as well. And the other option is just to disable or downgrade Microsoft Windows Defender as well. So there's a few different things that they're recommending here. And again, this affects not only on-prem deployments, but also Citrix virtual apps and desktop service because it does impact the cloud connectors as well. So again, we were getting, had some reports of some customers running into this. Thought it'd be great just to kind of get this out there so that our customers and users are aware of this issue as well.
No, Randy, this is great. This is a good service that we provide through this podcast series, and these are the moments where I'm kind of glad I'm not the systems admin anymore. Because you wake up every morning wondering what happened last night that broke your stuff that was perfectly configured. But it happens, right? It's this. There's so. I mean, the fact that this stuff works at all is just absolutely amazing. There's so many lines of code that go into everything, and everything is changing. Not everything, but lots changing dynamically around you. So this is great. I'm glad you called this out. In fact, this conversation is the first time I'm really understanding what's even happening here. So this is good for my own edification. Hopefully, people find value in us urgently sharing things like this.
Yeah, we always talk about ensuring that we have the latest antivirus definitions, updates, and things of this nature. One other thing to kind of point out here, right? Citrix does have a list of exclusions they typically recommend for excluding for antivirus. Broker service is one of those, for example. So, definitely recommend in conjunction with that going out there and reviewing Citrix's eDocs, because they do have recommendations specifically around antivirus and exclusions, so that, not necessarily to say that this wouldn't have happened, but just so that, there's some recommendations as far as antivirus goes. So,
yeah. Well, so let me challenge you on that one. The recommendations for exclusions for AV in this particular case, would it have prevented this? Had you been following those recommended practices?
I don't believe so. And again, I can't 100% say that, but it's more of the real-time scans, right, that we're looking at. So, if you're doing a full scan, it probably would have caught this and saw that this was a Trojan as well. So I can't say that would have necessarily fixed everything, but definitely recommend, at least as a minimum, following up with, following the Citrix recommended practices specifically around antivirus. So, if anything, just from a performance stability standpoint, right?
Right.
So,
you can antivirus. Sometimes you can't live with it, but you definitely don't want to live without it.
Exactly. So.
All right, sir. Well, thanks for jumping on and covering this. Anything else?
No, I think that's it for today.
All right. Appreciate the service. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Citrix Session with your hosts, Andy Whiteside and Bill Sutton. A special thanks to our guest for attending today's podcast. Podcast produced by Pete Downing. For any input, or if you'd like to be a part of our podcast, please email us at info@XenTegra.com. Please head over to XenTegra.com/podcast to listen to all podcasts in this series. This podcast is copyrighted by XenTegra LLC.